Are your expectations too high for your budget? Stick around and find out how much you should be spending on your marketing.
Okay, I've been working like 3 jobs. Probably why I never see ya. Probably why I never have time for the fake friends that won't be ya. Been ballin', but it's looking like they took a time out. Okay, I'm working on a Wednesday, then up again the next day. So-and-so is popping, man, I skip him like he leg day.
Had a meeting this morning with a prospect. How did we get that prospect? Showing you guys that we practice what we preach. We got them through LinkedIn, sent out connection requests, sent out messages. The same way that we teach it, we use it on a daily basis. He came back and said, hey, perfect timing. Let's talk about marketing he has a need. Specifically, he was talking about a website. And with that website, the reason why he wanted us to come and take a look at it and redo it is because he hired an agency that was local, that said that they were local. However, when it came to the web development aspect, it was done offshore in Pakistan. Now, this is something that is massive in the marketing agency space throughout the United States and honestly throughout the world. We don't come from an agency background. I don't. A lot of our employees do, but I don't really understand the reasoning why a lot of these agencies do it, but here's basically the breakdown. They're gonna charge you X amount of dollars for a website. Then they're gonna outsource it to either an office that they have offshore or to another agency to get it at a far reduced rate. I mean, it could be as much as, or as little as $6 an hour for them to do development work. Now they're gonna develop it and it's gonna be okay, not up to the standards that maybe the client had or the agency themselves, but they're making a killing when it comes to the profit on that. This particular prospect spent 30 G's on a site, probably only ended up costing the agency like 6 or 7. So it's a significant amount of profit. Now in the agency world, 300 to 500% profit for some of these agencies that are doing this is very common. Think about that whenever you talk to somebody. You have to ask the question, okay, your agency is here in this city or you're local to me, but where is the site gonna be actually developed? You have to ask those questions to make sure that you're using those US resources if you're expecting to spend money like that on a website where you're assuming that these are US resources. So that's why the prospect originally reached out to us, because he was not happy with the product. That relationship died off. He was looking specifically for somebody in Austin. They're based in Austin. We do the development here in Austin, so it was a good fit. But this is something that's commonly happening to where when you think about your expectations, sometimes you make assumptions and you have to ask questions about whether or not is your assumption correct. Typically the time that somebody is disappointed is because they had certain level of expectations and they didn't convey that to the other person. So then when that person doesn't deliver on those expectations, they're disappointed. That's just in any sort of relationship, whether it's personal, whether it's business, whether it's employees, internal, external, it doesn't matter. If you expect something and you don't communicate that expectation, you will be disappointed. It's not fair to the person on the other side of it. In their particular case, they should have communicated their assumption that it was done in the US. So that's why they got into that situation. Good news for us because we get to potentially do business with them, work through a proposal, but this is something that happens a lot. And what we wanted to talk about in this video was about expectations that you have with your budget and whether or not you're getting what you actually think that you're paying for, or how much should you spend to actually get something that's gonna move the needle from a sales standpoint. So if you're gonna spend $1 and you're gonna expect $3 return of value, then, and those are your expectations, in the marketing agency world, they're somewhat unrealistic when you get down to a certain threshold of below a budget. Now, in a general standpoint of as a business owner, we wanna give more value than what our client is paying, because if we constantly give more value, then that customer is gonna keep coming back to us and they're gonna be comfortable with the amount of money that they're spending with us on a monthly basis. But if you think that something's too good to be true, it probably is. The threshold that I see from a monthly marketing or a dollar amount on a website standpoint is if you're only looking to spend, let's say $1,000 a month, regardless of whether you're a huge company at $1 billion or a small company at 200,000. If somebody says they're gonna, pay me $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month and I'm gonna rock your world and you're just gonna blow up and get huge, that is unrealistic. If they're managing a singular aspect of your marketing, can they produce results with $1,000 or $1,500 a month? Yes, they can. Or $2,000? Yes. Is it going to be a game changer? Most likely not, regardless of what your business is. Now, from a website standpoint, if somebody tells you that they're going to charge you $3,000, $5,000 for a website, most likely that's not going to be the most amazing website. You may not think that you need the most amazing website. You may think that $5,000 is good enough, and that it's just going to be, it's just a website that's just people go to it and to see what you're all about, but it's not actually going to drive sales or drive revenue, but you know that you need to update it because your current one looks like garbage. We've dealt with this with customers that have come to us and said they spent $10,000 on a site and it's shit, and they bring it to us and we strip it all apart and look at the back end and the code and how everything's built, and it is not built to be changed in the future. It's something that is just completely jumbled together and not organized to where when it comes time to make changes, it's going to be extremely difficult. So when you're looking at those lower dollar amounts, even if it's a simple 5-page site, 10-page site, if somebody's like, I'm going to make the most amazing site for $5,000, a couple of things are going to happen. One, most likely the on-page SEO is not going to be done properly or at all. You need to look at that in your proposal. Number two, it's probably not going to be built the best in the back end. And number three, it's most likely not going to be done in the fastest amount of time that you want. General marketing agencies, let's take a look at like a 10 to a 20, 30, 40 page site. In general, competition that we've gone up to will say that is a 5 to 6 month build, which is absolutely ridiculous. We stick in our niche of companies we do business with. We don't go outside of this box that we've painted of whether or not they hashtag make cool shit or hashtag do cool shit. We only focus on specific types of industries and verticals that we enjoy doing business with. Therefore, we're faster, because this is all that we do, through that discovery phase to get into development and to be able to launch the site. These other agencies that focus on different industries, they're so broad that there's a little bit more of a learning curve. But regardless, when you're looking at 4, 5, 6 months at a big agency, medium-sized agency, or a two-man shop or a single freelancer, that's somewhat realistic of what you should expect, because they don't have the resources or they don't have the expertise in your niche. In general, our websites are typically in the 9 to 12, 14 week range. If we get into some crazy custom things or a very large site, yes, it can go 4, 5, 6 months, sometimes even longer depending on how big it is. But you have to understand that if a single person or a 2-person agency or a 3-person agency is saying they're gonna make it amazing and it's only gonna be this much money, it's most likely too good to be true. So when you're spending that dollar, really think about how much value are you going to get back for that, and don't have the wool pulled over your eyes thinking that you're going to get a $30,000 website for only $5,000, because the other agencies that are going to charge you $30,000 and have it all done in the US, they're not making a killing on that, but it's going to be a way better site than what you can get for $5,000. So from a monthly marketing standpoint, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, can you get stuff done? Yeah, you can. If you want to really move the needle, regardless of if you're a $500,000 or $1 million a year company or you're $1 billion, if you just think about how much money do you want to increase your revenue by, what percentage? Let's say you're 10 million and you want to get a 10% increase. That's $1 million a year in new revenue to take you to 11 at the end of the year. If you think that you can get $1 million in revenue, and let's just say your profit margin is between 7 and 35%, regardless of whether it's a service or a product, and you think that you can only spend $20,000 to get that, if that was honestly the case, then everybody would be only spending $20,000 and everybody's business would be blowing up like crazy. You need to look at it from the standpoint, however much you want to grow, there's no magic formula of take up a certain percentage and that's what you're going to devote into marketing. It doesn't work like that. Books tell you that, certain people tell you that, blog posts tell you that. That's not really the type of formula you should have. You should look at how many deals should you close, how much are those deals worth, then work backwards, reverse engineer it to how much traffic do I need, how many opportunities do I need, then looking into the marketing side, what do I need to do on a monthly basis to get these opportunities, and then look at what is the cost to do that. $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month is not going to get that for you. You should be expecting, if you want to significantly increase your revenue and the company you work for is north of 5, 10 million, you should be expecting to spend 3, 4, 5,000 minimum a month, sometimes up to 10 to 14,000 if you're really looking to push hard. Keep in mind that marketing is not transactional sales. It's not something that's just gonna, flip a light switch and all of a sudden you got all these people buying stuff. Unless you're in the consumer product space, unless you're in a SaaS business to where you can do specific targeting and ads and run campaigns that are going to be looking for that quick purchase, it's typically not gonna happen. If you're in B2B service, if you're in that space, it's gonna be a longer sales cycle Don't think that you're just gonna spend a couple grand or spend $5 all of a sudden you got all these leads, because it's most likely not gonna happen. So be realistic with those expectations on the website and the monthly marketing, to where you gotta spend money to get that brand awareness out there and to get new traffic in, and then start auditing that to see, once you start that relationship, start auditing to see, are you actually getting what you paid for? So how did you get your original budget for marketing? Did you pull that number out of the sky? I've talked to a couple prospects and said, all right, for what you wanna do, this is what we need to do, and for that, it's gonna be $7,000 a month. And they come back and they say, I was really thinking like $2,500. From what? Where did you get that number from? Because that's the money that you have left over, or that's what you put together in your budget when you've talked to nobody? Or did you previously do business with somebody that only did a certain aspect and they were $1,500 a month and you want to do more, so you increased it by 68%? You have to get your budget from somewhere. You can't just pull it out of the sky. Don't just take 1% of your total revenue, which is what a lot of people do, or 0.5% of your total revenue. That's what's allocated for marketing. You need to go out and do some research and talk to some people and say, this is what I'm looking to do. You are an agency. How much would you charge me to do this? Do that 3-4 times, get those numbers together, throw out the high, throw out the low, unless you love the high, definitely still throw out the low, and look to see what is that range, and then develop your budget from there. Ideally, you're doing this in Q3 for the next year. So hopefully in 2019, where you're watching this right now, you've already done this, but if you haven't, you can still do it at any time. You have to have a realistic expectation of what you should spend, because if you go out to the marketplace and say, hey guys, I only want to spend $2,500, then anybody that's willing to take that $2,500 that thinks that they can possibly do some good for you will be barking up that tree. Whereas other agencies that are saying $2,500 isn't going to get you really what you want to see, you really need to spend $5,000, you're going to go to them and say, you're crazy, that's out of my budget, I'm going to go hire somebody internally that could do all this for me for the same amount. Now with that being said, looking at your internal resources, you can bring somebody in-house, and it could be a marketing coordinator. You could pay them $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000, or it could be a marketing manager that you can spend $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 on. You can do that, but when you break it down, you're looking at a singular person, the skill sets that they have. If they're awesome at web development, they're going to be lacking in other areas. If they're an awesome graphics designer, they're not going to maybe know about social ads. You have to bring somebody in-house. Ideally, you have somebody that can manage the activity and overall manage the agency, but don't expect that you can replace an agency with 3, 4, 5 people that are going to work for your team on your project. Not a 3 to 4 or 5 person agency, but 3 people working every month on your team with a singular person. The 3-team agency group is going to say, I need $5,000 a month, and you're like, hey, I could spend $3,000 a month and just have somebody next to me that I can basically tell them whatever I want them to do, and they're going to do it, and we're still going to get the same results. It's not going to happen, because again, if it was that easy, everybody would just do that and there would be no agencies. So you have to look at the total cost of, if you bring somebody in-house and do that. First of all, like, we had this conversation with a prospect about a week ago. They were looking at bringing somebody in-house or hiring an agency. If they bring somebody in-house, it's this much money. We had to remind them that while maybe this person is $30,000 a year, you've got unemployment insurance, you've got taxes, you've got healthcare, you got benefits, all that stuff. You've got to provide them with equipment. That 30 isn't 30. We all know that as business owners, and if you're not privy to that information, you've probably seen it before, that it's not really 30. There's more costs associated with that. So, but still, even if it's 40 and you've got an agency at 40 and a full-time employee at 40, they're not going to produce the same results. It's just impossible, because if that person at 40 can produce the same results of an agency at 40 a year, then that person is not worth 40. They're worth 60, 70, or 80, and they're not looking at your job at 40. They're going on to find somebody that's actually going to pay them what they're worth. What are the lessons learned from this video? If you don't spend a lot of money and you're spending cheap, then you're going to get cheap results. If you go with somebody that is going to be offshore outsourcing this stuff, do not expect it to be amazing. Your expectations with every dollar that you spend should fit the budget that dollar is worth. If you're spending $1,000, don't expect it to give you $10,000 worth of return. Anybody that says that is going to most likely be BSing you. You have to have a budget in mind, but don't pull it out of anywhere. You can't just say, this is how much I want to spend, this is what I should get in return for it. Go out and do the work, talk to some people, figure out what do they think that you should spend, and then from there, figure out which direction you want to go into. So if you got some value out of this video, hit that like button. If you've got a question, leave it in the comments below, and we'll see you on the next one.